few days ago, this genius in one of my YouTube videos went on this incredible racist rant. What's wrong with being racist? I mean, we have so many problems right off the bat with that alone. Normally racists say, I'm not racist because, and then they bring up like statistics or something. But this guy just says it's good to be racist. And his argument boils down to some people, we're supposed to teach our kids that some people are dangerous. Yeah, don't get into a van with strangers, but Suzuki also thinks don't ever associate yourself with black people. So it's very easy to just tell these people to shut up and you're a racist and whatever. But what I try to do is to get them to admit that they don't know how to think and that they are hypocrites according to themselves. Which is why I asked him if a minority would be safe in a hick town. I have no idea what he's actually trying to say here. It says, I think what he's saying is, well, if they're Chinese, they'd be safe in a hick town because the people in the hick town wouldn't have a reason to be racist toward them. So I pulled the classic Peterson. So the question is, and he absolutely, I assume it's a guy, wouldn't answer this question. And then he tried to science his racism. You must recognize evolution necessarily produces these results. Did you watch these debates when they were allowed on YouTube? Did you think the social construct 100% environmental side won? So he's basically saying certain groups are inherently more violent, dangerous criminals. So this was kind of funny. He just admitted that white people are inherently racist towards others, and then he began by asking what's wrong with that. So I asked him if it's good or bad that a minority would not be safe in a hick town, because that's exactly what he's saying. Hey, I'm white and I'm not safe around black people, and that's bad. So according to him, black people aren't safe around white people in hick towns. But now all of a sudden it's not bad? So again, he didn't even try to answer the question. He just went in this completely other direction. Some other people chimed in with him, and, you know, I'll just let you read these if you want, but these were his arguments. And he appealed to crime statistics, kind of, sort of. So what I did was I went to the FBI and I got the crime statistics. Now, unlike you, Mr. Suzuki, what I also did was I used my brain. The most recent numbers I could get were for 2019. Not very long ago. There's nothing wrong with these numbers. So you can see the total number of homicides committed by whites is a little under 3,000. For blacks, a little over 3,200. I don't know why this is how the FBI tracks this, but they do other. So there's no Hispanic, there's no Asian category or anything like that. They just lump the other group and then unknown, which that's bizarre. But those numbers are really small. Now, Suzuki said something about, well, I know who kills who in the most numbers. So by digging a little bit deeper into that data, we get whites murdered by whites. That's over 78% of all the homicides of white people. And whites murdered by blacks, that's a little over 17%. Blacks murdered by blacks, that's over 88%. And blacks murdered by whites, that is 8.5%. So this is how somebody like Mr. Suzuki justifies what his claim is. Although the claim, what did he say? 3,500% more likely? No clue how that idiot arrived at that number. I have no idea. Now, we could dissect these numbers in more detail, but they don't paint a real picture of what risk looks like. And the biggest reason for that, which we will look into this soon, but what people like Suzuki do is they compare white murderers to black murderers instead of white people to black people. Now, again, we'll get more on that in a bit, but let me just explain this by way of analogy. Is anybody, including you, Mr. Suzuki, afraid of cows? Does anybody avoid going underneath trees? Do you avoid trees at all costs? Well, you know, studies show, and these are the actual figures. I did the digging. Cows kill 40 times more people in the United States every year than sharks do. But get this, trees kill 5 times as many people as cows do. So if you're being chased by a cow and there's a tree, should you hide behind the tree, or does that just magnify the odds of you being killed? Now, all of that sounds incredibly stupid, doesn't it? And you know that it sounds stupid. But why? It's because the numbers, intuitively you know that those numbers are actually microscopic. Nobody leaves their house worried about falling trees, cows, getting hit by lightning, earthquakes, and none of us lose sleep at night wondering if our water heater is going to explode. But for some reason, Mr. Suzuki is afraid of black people. Or maybe it was Hispanics. I'm actually not totally sure. But the reason for this is because Mr. Suzuki chooses to look at numbers in a way to reinforce what Mr. Suzuki already believes. Here's what that looks like in practice. Let's say there are 100 blue people and 100 green people. One blue person kills somebody and 2 green people kill somebody. Which of these statements is true? Think about it while I play you the song of Mr. Suzuki's people. The answer is all of these are true. However, 3 of them paint a very, very different picture. If you were walking down the sidewalk and a green person is walking toward you, should you cross the street to where the blue people are? Well, if I told you that 99% of the time it makes no difference, that paints a completely different picture than you're twice as safe if you cross over to the other side of the street. Headlines, online echo chambers, half-truths, and many factors combine to give us a severely distorted picture of what the world really is like. People wildly overestimate, for example, how many people are killed by the police every year. It hovers around 1,000. It did jump to over 1,100 last year, but that's a popular example. One of the most hilarious ones was when Matt Walsh was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in the millions when talking about the number of children who are on hormone blockers, and it was less than 1,000 people per year that go on them. So now let's do what Mr. Suzuki does not do. Compare white people and black people instead of white murderers and black murderers. The percentage of the white population in a given year that commits a murder is 0.00124%, or 1.24 per 100,000 people. For black perpetrators, 0.00672, or 6.72 people per 100,000 people. Now, the rate difference, if we divide those numbers, you could make the argument, and this is something Mr. Suzuki does. Now, he said 3,500. Again, I have no idea where that number came from. But you could say that the number is 5.42. You're 5.5 times more likely, or whatever. But if we compare people to people, those numbers are 99.989996% the same, which is to say 99.99% the same. Mr. Suzuki does not think that we are 99.99% the same, but the numbers tell us that we really are. You don't live in a prison. You live in a society full of everybody. And those people in that society are 99.99% the same. Again, a person like Mr. Suzuki, he justifies his racism in this way, but he's a complete hypocrite. He doesn't live his life as if this is actually the rational way to talk about risk. Because, for example, I'm sure you think that sharks are dangerous. You'd be stupid not to think that. Maybe you're afraid of the ocean. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But are you afraid of dogs? Because, dogs kill 200 times more people in America every year than sharks do. Do you go out of your way to avoid dogs? Do you write internet screeds about how you know the statistics on dogs? I doubt it. You probably have a dog. This is like a smoker telling somebody, don't drink Mountain Dew, that's got sugar in it. So now we have to ask, why don't you apply your concerns about safety consistently? The answer to that question is actually a different question. Why do you like dogs but not black people? Because it's not about safety, it's not about danger. The fact is, you use data, or your own version of data, to rationalize your internal racism. A lot of people do that. I'm just here to point it out. I hope you have a miserable life and go fuck yourself. Not you, the viewers. You guys are cool. See you tomorrow.